All right, so this was the first UFC event that I've ever seen that felt like court-ordered community service. You know how like in Guantanamo Bay, I think this was a thing. What is the freaking book Gulag Archipelago or something? The prisoners there found the conditions of the facility so unfit to live in. They would purposefully try to like starve themselves to death. So what the guys would do is they would strap them into a chair and they would put feeding tubes up their noses and then put like baby formula or whatever the heck up their nose so they'd be forced to consume it. That's what this week's UFC card felt like. And like I'm an MMA content channel, so what am I gonna do? Not cover this? I have work tomorrow at 6 a.m., dude. Right now it is currently 10 p.m. my time, so I have to wake up at 5 to be there on time. And it's cooked. It's over. Like I have to edit this afterwards as well, dude. It's done. And I'm still going to put my best foot forward to give you guys some good content for. So just drop a like is basically what I'm trying to say. Drop a like right here. I usually ask at the end of the video, drop a like for me. And also follow me on Twitter. Follow BWolfMMA on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on TikTok if you have TikTok. Subscribe too if you're not subscribed, bro. Please. I'm still gonna grind overtime. We're overly grinding. No matter what goes on, no matter how bad the main event is. Let's talk about this stinker of a card that we got today. UFC Perth Fight Night was absolute bulgogi. Maybe one of the worst events that I've ever seen in my life. I will not lie to you guys. It felt like a punishment, a cruel and unusual punishment. The only redeeming quality, aside from the fact that was a couple of knockouts that we ended up getting, namely in the main event, Carlos Ulberg fought with Dominick Reyes tonight. And then we got a haka from Brando Pericic, a new heavyweight prospect from City Kickboxing. I think that'd be a first for that gym. City Kickboxing clean swept. But I mean, to add insult to injury, the card was bad, and we didn't even get to watch a single Tafa fight. Because yesterday, Justin Tafa, along with his brother Junior Tafa, both declared, Junior Tafa with some notice, but Justin Tafa literally yesterday said that he couldn't fight. He tried cutting weight. And Louis Sutherland was like, yeah, this guy was like 6 or 8 pounds over. He got transported to a hospital. Brian Ortega maxing. There was no Eagle Rebirth for him, though. There was no catch weight. It's heavyweight. It's like 265 pounds. Justin Tafa is like 5'9", 5'10", too. How are you not making heavyweight, bro? Let's just talk about it, man. Let's get this over with. I'm in the middle of the freaking stream, too. Thank you guys, everybody who pulled up to the stream. And one of the homies in there was talking about how Wanderlei Silva got knocked out cold after his boxing match. And I was like, okay, well, and I was like, you mean like during the event? So he like lost the fight via KO? And they're like, no, apparently there was a brawl after the fight. And that's where Wanderlei Silva was colded. And he told me to like pull it up. So I went on to Twitter and I looked up the video and I found it. And I showed everybody, bro. Heinous stuff. Heinous stuff. The fight was ruled a disqualification because Wanderlei Silva kept headbutting his opponent. And that's the most Wanderlei Silva thing that I could imagine unfolding in a boxing match. This guy just getting frustrated and headbutting his opponent. So yeah, the fight was called off. It was a brawl that ensued in the ring. One of the guys who was part of the other camp of the dude that he fought, I don't even know the dude's name. He like snuck Wanderlei and punched him in the back of the head and staggered him. And then, in the middle of the commotion, the same guy clipped Wanderlei Silva's chin and laid him out cold, as you see right there. Really nasty work, dude. Hopefully he's okay. That's an old man to be getting knocked out like that. And, like, what are you doing knocking out old men like that? Father beating was a crime in ancient Greece, bro. Throw him in the brig. So, yeah, let's discuss the main card. Carlos Ulberg versus Dominick Reyes. I'm just glad I don't got to do no push-ups, man, for this. We actually didn't do too bad for picks either, man. Like, things actually went well. At light heavyweight, Carlos Ulberg, I didn't write the numbers there. I should have. Dominick Reyes is ranked number 7 in this division. Carlos Ulberg is ranked number 3. So the way they set up this card was for Carlos Ulberg to just knock out Dominick Reyes. So his title shot coming after whoever wins next Saturday, or this upcoming Saturday, I guess, since we're into the next week now. At UFC 320, Dominick Reyes, having lost to Carlos Ulberg the way that he did, makes it so that Carlos Ulberg is undeniably the next contender to fight for the belt. Yuri Prochazka has a scheduled fight with Khalil Roundtree. If Khalil Roundtree can beat Yuri Prochazka, then he would be next. I mean, not next. It really depends. Carlos Ulberg, though, he couldn't have logged a better performance for an argument to be made for him getting the next title shot than what he scored against Dominick Reyes. Dominick Reyes, yeah, whatever, it's sad. You know, we like Dominick Reyes. Dominick Reyes title run. Dominick Reyes reloaded. the resurgence of Dominick Reyes' career because, you know, we like that guy and he's a good dude. He's an American. And that means something to me to root for Americans in this sport. But you cannot say with a straight face or without lying or having like your fingers crossed behind your back that that wasn't a funny KO. It was, dare I say, it was really funny. The way that the jab came across and it like stumbled Reyes and the cross happened. And Reyes just kind of like, he planked. Like in the skate 3, whenever you just kind of like plank on the board, it was the same type of position that Dominick Reyes just assumed immediately. And then he eats one more shot while he's on his back, and then that's just the end of the fight. But Dominick Reyes, it didn't even look like he was in there at any point in the fight, man. Like, the first thing that I noticed is that he feinted a high kick, and Ulberg did not react at all. So that was kind of the green light for Dominick Reyes to throw up like 5 attempts at landing a high kick that none of them were successful. Ulberg was even pulling back like Vazeev, because the attempts were just from so far out. Dominick Reyes, I don't know what he was doing in this fight. He was rubber banding. He was lagging on 500 ping in this fight, and then he got chinned. As I had said at the very beginning, too, this was a very good night for City Kickboxing. Ulberg was their front runner tonight. Did a really good job of repping them. Called for the next shot at the title. I think they're going to fly him out to Vegas. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much set in stone that he's going to be the next title challenger, which, I mean, after tonight, it's really hard to argue that he doesn't deserve it. Ulberg wins via round 1 KO, and I feel like I'm not going to come after anybody, but it was kind of a cope for people to be like, oh no, Reyes is going to knock him out. No, he's not, bro. He's not going to do that anymore. Not to, like, the top guys. You can get a cheeky one over, like, Krylov or Dustin Jacoby, Haniak. Like, these dudes, like, the big boys, no, you can't run with them anymore. He's only 35, which isn't horribly old for him being a light heavyweight contender. He did take some time off as well, and he does have some finishing potential, but his chin is gone, and that kind of puts Johnny Walker on notice, too, depending on who he's match made with next. You never get that back. The chin doesn't just heal. No matter how much you rehydrate, you go up to a new weight class, there's a good chance that you may be more successful there. But if you're a guy who just gets frequently knocked out, and that was like something that you were just doing, 3 or 4 really bad, brutal KOs, that's always going to be something that like you run the risk of having to happen no matter what the conditions are. The chin just doesn't recover. So, I mean, that's something that I will make a mental note of moving forward. Very good win for Ulberg tonight in front of all of his homies. We're going to move on to the rest of this miserable card, and we're going to make haste whenever we're discussing the rest of it, because I do not care to reminisce. Jimmy Crute and the success that he's been having lately, and his fight against Marcin Prachnio, this fight against even Erslan, it just makes me think about how much of a goofy this guy was for just trying to do MMA for all that time. Alonzo Minifield, Rodolfo, Bellato, just wrestle. Just wrestle. You could have been so much more successful just by wrestling. Jimmy Crute spent the first half of his career trying to prove that he was like this striker and that he could like be this dynamic, all-encompassing fighter in the octagon. And I'm not just this one thing. I can do that and I can do all this other stuff too. You don't need to do that, because if you're really good at one thing, 205 and heavyweight are so non-competitive that you could just one-trick your way to the belt. Walter Walker is using heel hooks to get his way to the title, and it's probably going to work. He's probably going to pass his next few tests that come in the next matchups that he gets scheduled against. Jimmy Crute can just wrestle, and these guys can't wrestle, and they can't defend jiu-jitsu. The submissions that he's able to pull off are just comedic. Marcin Prachnio doesn't understand that his arm is compromised in the armbar and feels like he can get out of it, so he doesn't tap and it gets like pulled off of his body. Even Erslan's getting caught in these like older brother chokes, and he's baby tapping after he spent the whole week talking about breaking Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute has like a get out of jail free card. He was on the ropes. He was about to get cut. I mean, if he didn't slow down the pacing of his career and really get his ducks in a row, it could have been wraps for him a while ago if he just would have kept losing the way that he did. The whole time, he's just been able to wrestle like this, and he hasn't. So I'm grateful for the fact that he's like wised up and is starting to win. I like that he's playing to his strengths, especially whenever I'm picking him to win these fights. And for him to put on good performances and to be happy and enjoy himself and have fun in the octagon, it means that we don't get these really painful decision fights. And he's not one of those fighters where the narrative is like, oh man, it's a Jimmy Crute fight. Like, let's strap in for the Jimmy Crute fight. Or like just scrolling on our phones or something. You can actually lock in for this because it's not going to take too long. And you're probably going to get some action out of it. I would say that Jimmy Crute, after tonight, he looked like more of a guy who I'd take serious if we wanted to make a claim that somebody is next up for a title run. Jimmy Crute is a guy who I take more seriously in terms of being next up for the next title run than Navajo Stirling. And Navajo Stirling hasn't even gone over the hump yet and is shown like a cap in his skills. Navajo Stirling is still developing. Jimmy Crute, it could be argued that like he's kind of plateaued at a point, is having to reinvent himself. And I still think that he looked better than Navajo Stirling tonight. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But Jimmy Crute, he wins via round 1 sub. I don't even have anything to say about Even Erslan. Even Erslan, he's one of these guys like Rafael Cerqueira who they keep around just to lose. Even Rodolfo Bellato is one of those fighters too, where it's just like, what do you even do with him? Like, really, what do you even do with him? What is he there to accomplish other than to just give a dude hype by being his highlight? So yeah, good win for Jimmy Crute. It was another good performance for him. That makes it like 2 or 3 in a row now. If it is 3 in a row, the first win to set this entire streak off was super forgettable. The last 2, though, have been pretty solid. So I like it. Let's keep it going. Jimmy Crute co-main event concluded. Jack Jenkins versus Ramon Tavares at featherweight. I don't have the story on why Ramon Tavares missed weight for this fight. I guess it was kind of one of those up in the air weight misses. I think it's potentially because like these guys they use electric scales. I don't think that it's down to like kilograms and pounds because Ramon Tavares is an American, so that wouldn't even make any sense for him to have an issue with the conversion because there is no conversion. But yeah, Jack Jenkins, he was talking about an injury in the post fight where he was like, I was so scared after my injury and I needed the support of my camp and my family and my fiance. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I might be tweaking. But since Shep Mariscal dislocated his shoulder, which, I mean, that was a horrible injury to watch. Really nasty stuff. Jack Jenkins has come back, right? And he's won a fight against Herbert Burns. And then he fought with Gabriel Santos, Muscatino, and he lost that fight. And it's like, okay, so, I mean, are you talking about the shoulder? What are you talking about, man? Why were you afraid of the injury, even though you've been fighting afterwards? And I did some digging. Jack Jenkins, he was escaping a triangle choke attempt, which was super scary because, I mean, that's jiu-jitsu, not even necessarily MMA. A triangle choke attempt in the Gabriel Santos fight. His trachea got crushed. And there was, like, air bubbles that were forming in his throat and also, like, in his chest as well. So he was, like, out at dinner. They did a scan, and they sent him home once they realized that his jaw wasn't broken. He lost feeling in the left side of his body and then went into an intensive care unit for an emergency tracheotomy following this event. So that's what he was talking about. Super scary stuff, dude. My goodness, this guy has really been through it. Between the shoulder and then that, like, my gosh. It was actually a very happy moment for him to have won this fight. And he was elated, and he was nearly crying because, I mean, it probably took a lot out of him to get back to where he needed to be mentally and physically to be able to perform at any capacity, even though this fight was a steaming pile of dog shit. It was horrible and not fun to watch. Jenkins, he was utilizing his range advantages over the shorter Ramon Tavares. Tavares was throwing single shots, not letting his hands go. Neither of them really were. Jack Jenkins was just kind of using his leg kicks to keep Ramon Tavares at bay and to lob up a high kick at his guard that would just kind of slap it. And you'd only do these in like intervals of 1 every 10 seconds or so. Ramon Tavares, he was blocking the high kick, and then there would be no punches that would be followed up from Jack Jenkins after he landed the high kick. So this would kind of happen in like this infinite cycle. Ramon Tavares would swing big hooks on the outside and miss them because he was nowhere close enough to land. He wouldn't get too close because he was afraid of getting knocked out in this fight, clearly. The only hype moment of this fight, other than Jack Jenkins getting the dub and then me figuring out about what it took for him to get back into the cage, was he landed an outside trip that was like the Peter Yan takedown, which was pretty cool. That was actually pretty fresh. So, I mean, credit where credit's due. He got style points for that. But other than that, no combos, no pocket exchanges, no big moments from either fighter. Just a bunch of leg kicks and high kicks that were largely all defended. Jack Jenkins wins on output. He wins on control time whenever he did start wrestling. Ramon Tavares lost in Australia in his featherweight debut, the ex-bantamweight. So, quite a sound Jack Jenkins decision. That was the featured fight of the event. We're going to move on now. Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny. All right, so there was like 2 things, right? Neil Magny wins the fight via round 3 sub after losing for like 12 minutes. He lost to the point where it looked like Jake Matthews was going to be able to skate to a decision. Neil Magny is a master of his craft. Like this guy he's so good at what he does, and that's just fighting in the UFC and not getting cut from the roster. He's so good at not getting cut, like it's ridiculous. Jake Matthews, he came out and he looked really good with his hands. He was trying to get on the inside to land lead hooks on Neil Magny. He was timing these blitzes. He was scoring with the lead hand, it looked like. And then he would enter clinches whenever he would close the distance on Neil Magny, because Neil Magny wasn't going to get chased around the cage. He was going to plant, and he was going to try to win clinch exchanges with Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews was using the clinch to advance into his attempts at wrestling and to try to take Neil Magny down, and it just wasn't working. But I mean, in his attempts to advance through like these clinches to get to takedowns, Neil Magny wasn't really giving him too much. Neil Magny was just still losing these sequences handedly, though. So, I mean, we did see moments where Neil Magny would get his back taken while he was standing. He would get his legs kicked out. He would have his back be taken on the ground. Jake Matthews would be attacking a rear naked choke, and then he would advance into mount. And then from there, he would get Neil Magny in like a triangle armbar, and he would just start crapping on him. It looked really bad. It looked horrible. And Jake Matthews was landing shots the whole time. Jake Matthews was actually doing a really good job of not selling the position for a submission, and he was actually just doing damage all throughout, winning the rounds. That's what he was prioritizing. He was doing a really good job. At the very end of round 1, Jake Matthews ended up catching Neil Magny in a guillotine. And people are talking about this may be overturned to like a no contest. I think that you let Neil Magny have this one. He's very close to breaking Jim Miller's record of 27 wins. That's another cool stat. Is before he was tied with like 5 other people at 23 wins for the most in UFC history. Jim Miller sat above all of them at 27. Now Neil Magny has 24 UFC wins, which gets him closer to being the guy who holds the record for the most, which is, I think he could do it. And it's not even like he would need a reduction in the level of skill in the matchmaking that he's getting. If they hold him at the same level that he's been at, just testing these guys who they want to push through the rankings in the 170-pound division, he's going to rim pack a few more guys, bro, and get that record for sure. Neil Magny is almost choked out in this guillotine, and it kind of looked like he went out. He put up a thumbs up to the ref, but Dominick was talking about he kind of went limp and then moved his arm downwards to try to create space. It looked like he was kind of passing out. But as soon as like the ref told Jake Matthews to get off of Neil Magny, like, okay, I'm going to stop the fight, Neil Magny immediately protested, and it happened right at the end of the round. So the ref kind of just like locked in and played it off and was like, okay, just go back to your corner. We're going to get round 2 going. Round 2, Jake Matthews was landsliding that. This fight was so lit. And so, yeah, he's getting dominated through 2 rounds into 3 rounds. So then Jake Matthews, he pins Neil Magny up against the cage, shoots a really messy double leg. Neil Magny, he kind of like oil checks the guy and then puts like the other hand through his crotch and like lifts him up like this. It's crazy. And it looked like he was trying to power bomb him. He said he was going to, but Jake Matthews was grabbing his legs and making it impossible to do that. He adjusted the position of Jake Matthews so he wasn't getting pinned on the cage anymore. And he like created space so that his back was out into the open. And Jake Matthews still tried to run the pipe and finish the double leg. And he just got sprawled really hard by Neil Magny. And Neil Magny, he did what he do. He got to the Darce choke position and he wrapped it up. And I was looking at the clock because he sat into like this sprawl for a little bit. And there was like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes left on the clock. I was like, dude, this is so much time for Neil Magny to win. And I knew he could finish too. I picked Jake Matthews just because I didn't think that his Achilles heel would be the cardio. I'm not sure what Neil Magny is winning these fights to. It's literally just divine intervention that's giving Neil Magny these wins. He beat Mike Malott in Canada. He beat Jake Matthews inside of Australia. I thought that the Apex was a source of his power. No. Neil Magny is just the GOAT. And he's really good. He's really good. And they keep on sending these hitmen to come and smoke him, and he just doesn't die. This dude is like Springtrap or like Doomsday. He just always comes back. This dude's like a cockroach. He just survived with his head missing and then just regrows it. Magny wins via round 3 submission. You should definitely find a clip of this finish and watch it. It was very inspiring. To get us going on the prelims, we had Tom Nolan versus Charlie Campbell at lightweight. Alright, so I mean, like, Charlie Campbell has really good boxing, but I think that his problem is whenever the fights get intense, he usually folds up. And I thought it was just down to him getting caught against Chris Duncan. But I mean, dude, the second that he hit some adversity in this fight and things started to not go his way, he kind of just folded up. And I mean, regrettably so, because I did pick him to win the fight. Tom Nolan won this fight via round 1 submission. The resistance that Charlie Campbell met in this fight against Tom Nolan, he was pressuring super well. His entries were good. His hands looked sharp. Tom Nolan timed one of these entries, though, and he threw a spinning back kick to the body, and it made Charlie Campbell not want to be in Perth, Australia anymore. So after that, very tentative with his entries. He started wrestling a lot more. He dropped Tom Nolan the early going of this fight, and instead of engaging with him on the ground, because he probably understood the threat that the jiu-jitsu posed to him as a grappler who's not as good at top control as Tom Nolan is at attacking submissions from pretty much every single position in the cage, he was standing up. Tom Nolan was standing up too. He was tuning him up on the feet. And as soon as that spinning back kick landed, the entire game plan shifted. He went for grappling, tried to take him down, try to get control. Tom Nolan was able to reverse the position, take the back of Charlie Campbell, sink in a rear naked choke, and then that was the end of the fight. Tom Nolan won this fight. The Big Train, that's his name, Tom Nolan, the Big Train. Sauced on my boy Charlie Campbell. I don't know if I'll be picking him to win other fights after this one, man. So yeah, that'll take us into the prelims. My boy Kai Kara France, bro. Kai Wari France with the haka. This is like one of my favorite things ever, watching Kai Kara France do the haka. Like literally, it's like my favorite. I love it. So, I don't know why. It does something like primal to my brain. I love it. I'm not going to have a whole lot to say about these prelims since they were so garbage. We're going to start with Navajo Stirling versus Rodolfo Bellato. I mean, bro, they were calling this man in my chat Navajo boring because he's just boring. Like, this guy is like, I said it in my in like my predictions, right? This dude has the makings of a varsity athlete. He just doesn't go for it. They're giving him scheduling against fighters who he can just knock out if that was his will, but he's not putting the foot on the gas. He's not applying himself. There's no output, there's no danger, there's no presence with Navajo Stirling. He's just in there existing, maintaining homeostasis, bro. Another side note, I really do like the Australian ref, even though he's going to get some heat for the Neil Magny fight, Jim Peridios. I think that's how you say it, Jim Peridios, I don't know. He was at UFC Shanghai as like a trial ref, and they gave him a full-time extension, it seems. I like him. I think he's better than Gary Copeland, if you know about that guy. Gary Copeland looks funny, but I mean, dude is a freaking garbage ref. I mean, if there's something I could say to compliment Navajo Stirling, he's really good at not getting knocked out. But, I mean, he should be finishing these guys, dude. The UFC is giving him a caliber of opponents for him to get knockouts over, but he just never does. And in these fights, sometimes he does show glimmers of being a guy who we'd like to root for, and then he just starts clinching again, bro. Like, Navajo boring, just wins another decision, bro. Like, it really sucks. Why can't you be like Ulberg? Yeah, there wasn't really too much to say about this one. Andre Petroski versus Cam Rowston. Cam Rowston, he came out and he had lost to Torres Finney in his first attempt at getting a contract on the Contender Series. So I had made a note to myself that there's a chance that Andre Petroski, since he does come from a grappling background, could just Torres Finney max here and just win a fight through just spamming grappling and then just controlling Cam Rowston to a decision. He gave Cam Rowston the opportunity to knock him out by engaging in a stand-up battle with him. Cam Rowston takes his opportunity. Cam Rowston, though, whenever he came out, I noticed that, like, bro, I mean, I'm not really one to talk right now because I'm rocking the bean. No fade either on me, but Cam Rowston, he had, like, hair grown in here, and then he had, like a buzz cut around the side, but there was no blend. So my theory is that he called his barber's mother a wild boar, and in exchange for that, his barber gave him a fade that he didn't even bother to blend or to like try to make look. You know what I'm saying? And in exchange for this, and because he got such a haircut from his barber, he took it out on Petroski, landed this lead hook that looked like he kind of just sneezed on him, and then Petroski just died. Like, it really did look like a phantom punch. The connection was so short. I mean, it was really well placed. It was on the temple. Petroski just kind of falls, shuttles up, gets TKO'd. Rowston is a W mans because he gets on the mic and he paid homage to Adesanya. He was like, there's a new dog in the middleweight division. And he didn't say the part about peeing on the cage, but he looked at Izzy in the crowd. Izzy was there, he was smiling and cheering on his boy. They all ride for each other at City Kickboxing. It's cool. I like it. I think that Cam Rowston is a good friend for that. He, like, went on this long tirade about how, you know, Israel Adesanya made his debut however long ago, often replicated, never duplicated, but he's going to try to make his contribution and pick up where he left off, basically. And he just shouted out his boy, which, I mean, like, fair play. Cool. So Cam Rowston wins this fight. Round 1 KO. Very nice. Very heartwarming. Jamie Mullarkey versus Rolando Bedoya. Man, Jamie Mullarkey has some really aggressive eyebrows. Jamie Mullarkey wins this decision. This fight was kind of utter domination from Mullarkey all the way up until round 3, where Rolando Bedoya got a fire lit under him by his corner. His corner was like, dude, we need you to let these hands go and throw some combos. And Rolando Bedoya kind of understood the assignment. He started piecing up Jamie Mullarkey. But the thing about it is, like, Jamie Mullarkey is one of those fighters where, unless you're really him, you have to do damage over time in order to finish him. Like, he'll make it into the second round. If, like, you're beating him up, yeah, he'll make it into the second. This guy has a good chin, bro. So for you to have lost 10 minutes of a fight, unless you really, like, catch him whenever he's just super tired, which, I mean, he was tired, or you hit really hard and you just didn't really do anything all the way up until that last 5 minutes, you're not going to finish him. Even if you get really far out and ahead in the fight, the best thing that you could hope for at that point is a 10-8 and a draw if you've lost 2 rounds to Jamie Mullarkey, because his chin is really that good. But largely through 10 minutes, Bedoya fought like he was paid off by the Australian mob in Perth, dude. Like, he didn't do anything. But then Rolando Bedoya, he did start to get going. He landed some really nice clinch elbows, even a spinning elbow. Jamie Mullarkey, though, hadn't taken any damage. So it was like a fresh Jamie Mullarkey who started taking these shots in the 3rd round, and he wasn't really fazed by them. Maybe if he had thrown them earlier on in the 1st round, whenever both of them were less tired, they would have had more of a bearing, and he could have stayed on the offense to win this decision. But the game planning, it was struggling. It didn't make much sense at all. Rolando Bedoya loses this fight to Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey hadn't fought in 16 months, they were saying. So, I mean, I'm sure he appreciated a win in his comeback, because he wasn't really doing a whole lot of that before he did take that hiatus. So it was good to see him win, I guess. It happened in Australia. He was in front of his boys' eyebrows. I don't know why they're like white too, you know? Like, why is God made him that way. That's the reason why. God made him that way, and God loves us all, and we're all beautiful. All right, so Colby Thicknesse versus Josias Musasa at bantamweight. What a mess this fight was. What an absolute dumpster fire and a mess this fight was. Okay, so Thicknesse, he looked like a newborn deer to get this fight going. Josias Musasa was having his way with Thicknesse in the boxing. Colby Thicknesse was looking to initiate clinches to try to shoot takedowns, and none of them were working. Largely, Colby Thicknesse, I mean, he was so ineffective on the feet that it looked like he was going to get knocked out at certain points of this fight. His chin held up, though, and I think that his saving grace was, like, his chin, because, I mean, he wasn't wearing a lot of damage either, but Josias Musasa was landing, and he was landing really hard on Colby Thicknesse, like some bombs, dude. Like, this guy is called the Knockout Wizard. I didn't understand really why he earned that moniker in his fight against Carlos Vera whenever he was the one getting knocked out. Against lesser opponents, he for sure would have been knocked out. Colby Thicknesse, that is. I mean, like, Josias Musasa is throwing with some real power. Thicknesse does end up getting a takedown at the very end of the 1st round, and he makes Josias Musasa look like a free trial guy down there. Musasa doesn't know how to escape mount. He doesn't know how to kip. He can't re-guard. He's relinquished to shelling up, taking strikes from mount from Colby Thicknesse, and then Josias Musasa is throwing hammer fists off of his back from mount. It was actually kind of ridiculous, man. And so they get stood up. I'm not sure how I'd even score the 1st round. Probably for Colby Thicknesse, the judges did, because, I mean, they were in Perth, so they were being lenient. And, I mean, there was a lot of control and strikes mixed into it. Josias Musasa was just owning this man on the feet, though. So round 2 came around. Definitely a Josias Musasa round. There was a lot more attempts made at wrestling by Colby Thicknesse. None of them were working, though. Thicknesse was getting beaten up bad, and he was on the retreat for the entirety of the 2nd round. So you can't give him that 5 minutes. That was earned by Josias Musasa without a doubt. Round 3 rolls around. Round 3, it looks like more of the same. Thicknesse is starting to get tagged by Josias Musasa. Then he lands the inside leg kick of infinite despair and suffering. You know what I'm talking about. I just made a video about the worst nut shots, right? Low blow. Josias Musasa takes a flush cup contact. So he's just chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, waiting for the 5 minutes to pass for him to, like, be required to fight, because it was a really bad nut shot. Something that was, like, the most notable about this fight, though, is this was a bad nut shot, yes, but Josias Musasa asked if he could use the bathroom. He was like, can I go use the restroom? And the referee had to literally tell him, like, Josias, you cannot go and use the restroom right now. And he was like, yeah, he literally wanted to go and, like, potty and come back. You can't do that. Like, what? I've never even heard of a fighter asking for that as, like, an option that he had. But he did. He went for it, and it was unsuccessful. Colby Thicknesse on the feet, whenever he was getting boxed up, He was like Saguaro cactus maxing and just moving backwards like this with his hands up in the air. One of the guys in my chat said it looked like a mugging, and it actually did, bro. It looked like the guy was actually just getting all of his things robbed, bro, by Josias Musasa. And it led us to believe that this was going to be a handed decision that he would win. But whenever they come back from the break, Colby Thicknesse gets to the clinch, freezes out the action so he's not getting beat up, and then he gets another takedown and is just smashing this guy. And that is what happens all the way up until the end of the fight. The judges, they give him a 29-28 decision, and whether or not he deserved it, I don't care. I predicted that Colby Thicknesse would win this fight via round 1 KO, so I will take being right about my pick being him winning. So, and that was another joke in the chat. People were like, even like all the way up until the main event, people were saying, I think that Colby Thicknesse is going to win this via round 1 KO. I think I got a Thicknesse round 1 KO here. I don't know, man. I don't really have many words for the way this fight went. It was bad. It was bad. All right, so the third fight was Luana Carolina versus Michelle Montague. I'd been scarred by the Elise Pereira fight. So I was like, I will never choose another women's bantamweight prospect to ever have prevalence or gain traction in this division again. But one thing that I was completely overlooking in saying that was that Elise Pereira was the away team whenever she made her debut. This was an event that was built around the fighters of the Oceania region. And Michelle Montague is from New Zealand. She was going to make history as well, which she did by becoming the first New Zealand woman to sign and fight and win in the UFC. So I should have actually seen this one coming. Montserrat Hindon was the Mexican in UFC Noche, and she beat Elise Pereira, who, they were touting to be a new prospect in the division, but these cards are for the home team fighters to win. So that should have definitely overruled my pick of Luana Carolina. I just kind of went with what I knew here. Luana Carolina is a familiar face. She goes for it in her fights, and it looked like she was finding success earlier on. Michelle Montague, I was talking to the boys in the live stream, and I was like, I'd be so mad if I picked Michelle Montague watching this, because it just didn't look like she knew what to do with her hands. Whenever you're taking a picture with that really socially awkward friend, and they're just they don't really know what to do with their hands. That's Michelle Montague whenever she's boxing in the octagon. But in the grappling, she's really good. She's super strong. If you look at both of them side by side right there, Michelle Montague is jacked, dude. She's really jacked. And she's a training partner of Kayla Harrison. So they had announced that too after the fight was over. I wish I would have known. I would have picked her off the basis of this. Luana Carolina is dropping this woman, wobbling her with jabs and hooks and stuff as she's entering range. She still ends up chasing Luana Carolina into a corner of the octagon, Michelle does, and then she starts wrestling, and from there, she's just controlling her. After the first takedown was scored, Luana Carolina wasn't stuffing anything afterwards, and it was really disappointing to watch because, this was such a winnable fight for anybody with, a bare minimum amount of wrestling defense. All you have to do is just keep on tuning her up on the feet. These jabs were, making her hit the chicken dance, bro. Luana Carolina sold this so bad. Gave up her ranking in the process, too. The narrative here is not even necessarily that Michelle Montague is, exceedingly great at fighting, because she's a better wrestler than anything. She'll get pretty far off of the basis of good grappling, but as soon as she encounters a striker like Norma Dumont or anyone at that level, dude, she's gonna lose, bro, and it's gonna be bad because she's just gonna get her head boxed off. So she does win a decision here. Luana Carolina is not the girl to send her back to the lobby. I thought she would have been. It's the regional plot armor, the regional event plot armor that these fighters get that are from the region. She got the elemental boost from being in Perth. The second fight, Brando Pericic versus Elisha Ellison. I feel bad because they go through the trouble of showing us the backstories of these fighters and they have them talk about themselves. Brando Pericic, life of crime. I was living in my car for a while. And it's oh, well, I want to support him, right? He has a good story, turned his life around, clawed himself out of a dark hole, and he said his family is depending on him to make something of himself, and so he's proud to be able to represent his family and his country in the UFC. He's a city kickboxer, so that's another thing he has going for him. He's a heavyweight at city kickboxing, which you never hear about that. But then they go over to Elijah Ellison. Elijah Ellison was Khalil Roundtree maxing before he found MMA. He said that he was going to end his life at one point, kissed his dog and then grabbed his Glock, and then he said he had his buddy call him just in the nick of time to save his life. And then he found MMA, and that's the reason why he's still alive. So it's okay, well, I kind of want to support him now too. But Elijah Ellison, I know that height and weight aren't there. Height, he's 6 foot, he's 236 pounds. And This is blob meta. Brando Pericic is like 261 pounds. And that's what wins you fights. It's blob meta. You can't be like this hyper light, hybrid, 205er, 265er and be successful in this division. You're either all in or all out. You're either a Justin Tafa or you're Cyril Gone, and there's no in between. If you are a 205er and you have the frame of even a middleweight and you just packed on extra pounds, you can maybe get away with it at 205, but at heavyweight, that is not going. You can't be anything less than like 250 pounds and actually beat up blobs in this division. Especially not whenever they're coming from reputable gyms like City Kickboxing. Brando Pericic, he looked pretty good to start the fight. Defense left a little bit to be desired. Ellison landed the first good combo. Ellison had the crisp fade too, bro. I'm not sure what region the haircut is from. He had like waves in the front, and then he had like a little low fro in the back. It was like Charles Johnson, but a little bit more grown in where the parts are normally bald. It was sick, man. But he landed a really good combination to get started. It was just eaten by Brando Pericic though, because he's not a blob. You gotta have a blob physique to gain access to the additional power that you get from being a blob. And the durability too. And if you're not, then you just lose to the blobs. Brando Pericic ate them hoes. And then he answers back with the right hand that sends Ellison on Chicken Street. Ellison tries to get on some wrestling, can't complete the takedown because he's not a blob and he's fighting against a blob. Brando Pericic is throwing some freaking elbows at his temple. Ellison pulls guard from here, and then he just gets TKO'd on the ground. And it feels bad, man, because they had to bring like an oxygen machine in for my boy. And Brando Pericic was celebrating, and he does the haka, which was lit, man. We got a haka tonight, and I that means something to me. Round 1 TKO for Pericic. We're going to talk about the first fight of the night right now. That was going to be Loma Lookboonme versus Alexia Tainara at women's strawweight. Tainara is a really good grappler. Alexia Tainara low-key has like a Fallout New Vegas haircut too. Some of the women raiders, like they be having haircuts that look like hers. She came out too, she was dancing like Ellen DeGeneres in her walkout. This is just her thing, you know? Loma Lookboonme, she did actually not as good as I thought she was going to do in clinch exchanges. Granted, she comes from the Muay Thai background. Alexia Tainara's jiu-jitsu is just way too good. And her wrestling is really good as well. Because off of the cage, she wasn't landing conventional single or double legs. She was just throwing Loma Lookboonme. Like, straight up just, like, lat dropping and throwing her. And it was, like, lit, bro. It was actually really tight. Like, most of the takedowns that she was landing, they were throws where she would get on bottom position and reverse. Alexia Tainara didn't even do too bad in the stand-up either. And I really do like how scrappy Alexia is, because whenever she's won 10 minutes of a fight, at the very end of the second round, she'll stand and trade with Loma Lookboonme in the phone booth, and she'll give her an opportunity to knock her out if she's really like that. And she'll land some shots too, and she'll stick her tongue out. Like, I like that, man. She's cool. I think that Alexia Tainara is a good fighter, and I'm glad that she's ranked now at this weight class. I think that she can make a run towards doing some really cool stuff at women's strawweight. We might be looking at a title challenger, just off of the basis of that crazy wrestling that she has, man. 'Cause she's really good at it, and she's good at landing shots whenever she gets a dominant position. She understands positions really well, and she's not going to relinquish them just to get subs or put herself in any type of danger so that she's not winning these rounds. And it's the type of progressive grappling where you watch it and you don't like actually fall asleep. I mean, I know this is like the women's opener to get us going in strawweight, but I was actually kind of engrossed by what I was watching. Alexia Tainara was making this fight something that was worth watching. She kind of has like a grappling package like Tatsuro Taira as well, with the way that she's able to utilize the cage to get to takedown. She was like kicking off of the cage. Josh Hokett special, if you remember the way that he was wrestling that way as well. I like Alexia Tainara. She wins this decision handedly, 30-27. Hebos family affiliation. I guess Amanda Hebos' dad is like a pretty nice coach for women and fighters in general. He trains MMA athletes, including her. So Tainara wins this decision. I liked what I saw. It was cool. So let's go through our predictions recap. No Golden Freddy poses on the evening. I wore the Freddy Fazbear shirt ironically, hoping that we would get some Golden Freddy poses. Nothing happened. I'm excited for this upcoming week though. Magomed and Alex Pereira have done a really good job of selling this fight through the media that they produced in the build-up, talking trash at the UFC PI, getting into it, beefing through the translator. This weekend I went, 9-3, which is lit. 9 out of 12 were my predictions. I feel good going into this next week, man. I feel really good, actually. Hopefully, we can get an Alex Pereira W. That would make my whole year, man. I would make me so happy. I'd be the happiest lad if we got Alex Pereira beating Magomed next week. I don't know. There's no way for him to properly communicate to us how hurt he was in the fight because he doesn't speak English. If we spoke Portuguese, we'd probably have a better idea and would be more tapped in on the condition that Pereira was in whenever he lost that first fight. Maybe he loses even worse. Maybe he comes out and he knocks out Magomed. They gave him updated customs. Instead of it being that uniform pattern all the way around, I think one side is like cheetah print now. I think that those shorts look so stupid, dude, honestly. Hopefully they throw Magomed some special ones that look even dumber than Alex Pereira so he gets better. If they throw Magomed his own pair of customs and they look a lot better than Alex Pereira's, man, that's going to feel crazy. That's going to make me feel crazy, dude. Especially if he loses in the new revamped customs as well, dude. Ooh. I'm not sure if he can come back from that. But yeah, UFC 320, we also got Umar versus Corey Sandhagen. Should be a good week of fights that we're coming up on. Stay tuned for the Contender Series Week 8. I will be streaming for that too. And then I will also have predictions for UFC 320 coming up very soon. I will catch you fellas in the next one. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. I'm going to catch you fellas in the next one. Have a wonderful night. Peace out.